Okay, so welcome to another segment of the lymphatic system. So if you paid attention to the video that I had last time, we want to continue and actually look at the question and how you can go about answering. So if you still remember, I can just maybe get to highlight a few concepts that I did talk about. Remember, we did say that the lymphatic system contains organs that are involved in the body defense against diseases. So there are certain organs, and these organs, so the main function of this system is simply, defense. So it actually helps in the defense of the body. So it actually helps in the defense of the body against diseases. So now it contains, certain organs that are actually involved in the defense mechanism. So what are some of these organs that it had? Remember from my previous video, I did highlight about what we are called as being the lymph nodes that are found there. Apart from that, we talked about the spleen, which is the largest organ, of course. Then we talked about, the thymus. I also did talk about what we called as being the tonsils. Maybe I can give you brief highlights of the function of what we are calling as being this. In my previous discussion, I did talk about much about what we called as being the lymph nodes. Well, the lymph nodes, like we said, they actually contain white blood cells, the WC. Now, of course, what do they do? What do the lymph nodes actually do? Well, what they do is that, they simply, trap and kill. So they actually trap and kill, bacteria found in the fluid. Bacteria in lymph, which is the fluid found in the lymphatic vessel, before it is taken back into the blood. But what about the spleen? What mainly does it do? Well, for the spleen, it actually produces, white blood cells. So it also produces white blood cells, which trap and kill bacteria in the blood. So you can say which trap and kill bacteria, in the blood. So that's what it does. And we can talk about what we are calling as being the thymus gland. So that thymus actually, it also produces a type of white cells. So we can say maybe produces and supplies. So it actually produces and supplies what we can say mature T cells to the blood. So it's a type of white blood cells that all help in the defense mechanism of the body against diseases. Then we also have what we are calling as being the tonsils. Well, the tonsils are actually located. So the tonsils are located around the pharynx, so the back of your mouth. So that is where they are somehow located. Now, what do the tonsils do? Well, the tonsils, they are like watchdogs, whereby they help in trapping and removing bacteria entering the mouth and nose. So they act as, we can say, maybe watchdogs. So they act as watchdogs, trapping. They act as watchdogs, trapping and removing bacteria, entering the mouth and nose. So that is what the tonsils do. So sometimes when they become infected, this is where a person even suffers from what we call tonsillitis. Inflammation of the tonsils leads to tonsillitis, where you have got tonsils. I'm sure you have seen that. Now let's try to quickly look at the question and see how you can answer, because that was my main focus, is to look at a question. So I already have a question that is projected there, and if you look at the question that I have there, it simply says describe, so the question is actually talking about describe the components and function of the lymph, so the fluid found in the lymphatic system. So they want you to describe the composition and function of the lymph. That's what it's talking about. So remember, if I'm to put up just a few points for you there so that you can see what points you need. Remember, you always need to paragraph and not write in bullet point form in biology. Very important. So we can simply say that lymph maybe has a similar substance to that of blood plasma. So lymph has similar substances to that of blood plasma, usually differing with the amount of each of those substances that are there. So much of the components that are going to be there. So I can maybe say that lymph has similar, maybe we can tell you, has similar substances. So it has similar substances to that of blood plasma. I'm sure you remember the composition of blood plasma. So we can say usually, maybe we can say usually differing, usually maybe differing with the amount, of each. So what are the components that are going to be found there? So we can simply say it is composed. So it is composed of one. You can find water is there. You are going to find some proteins there. You are going to find glucose there. You are going to find fats there. You are also going to find salts there. And of course, most important, you're going to find that they are white blood cells. So you're going to find that they're white blood cells. Right, maybe another component that you need to remember as you're answering that, you can talk about lymph performs both circulatory and immune function. So we can simply say that lymph performs both circulatory, we can say circulatory and immune function. So it helps in the circulation of a fluid, that's the circulatory, and it also helps in the defense. That is what lymph actually does. So under this one, we can put up another point there and simply say it. Remember, they say describe the composition and functions of lymph. So we can simply say that it transports, so it helps to transport nutrients. It helps to transport nutrients, oxygen, and hormones. Talk about and hormones to the body cells. And at the same time, when it transports oxygen, nutrients, and hormone to the body cells, it has actually to collect carbon dioxide and other waste materials, which are eventually drained into the bloodstream. So we can simply say and collects, or we can simply say and collects CO2. Please write in full carbon dioxide and waste material which are eventually, so now these are returned back, so which are eventually drained into the bloodstream. So they are taken back into the bloodstream so that they can be removed from the body, either through the lungs if it's carbon dioxide. If it's other waste like urea that has been made, then the kidneys can get to eliminate them. Apart from that, it actually this fluid it transports, or we can simply say it transports absorbed. So it also helps in transporting absorbed fats and what we simply call fat-soluble vitamins. So it will also help in transporting fats and fat-soluble, vitamins from, the intestines. So these are some of the roles that it can play. Right, another component that you can mention there when you are highlighting or answering that question, you can simply put up some more there. If we are able to put up some more there. Right, so some more that we can help to put up there, we can simply say that, along the lymphatic, so just along the lymphatic vessel, we, are what we are calling as being, lymph nodes. So you can also find lymph nodes are going to be there. What do these do? Remember what we said, they produce. So that produce what we are calling as being WBC, white blood cells. Yeah, specifically, there are types of white blood cells that are produced by the lymph nodes, specifically what we simply called as being the lymphocytes. So you're going to find that lymphocytes are going to be produced. Of course, remember what we said, what the lymphocytes are going to be doing. These actually trap and destroy bacteria and other foreign bodies in the lymph. So we can simply say these cells trap and destroy bacteria and other foreign bodies in the lymph. So that is what they're going to do in that fluid. This is what the white blood cells are going to be doing. Now, apart from that, you are going to find that the lymph can also play another important role. We can maybe say that, lymph also transports, it actually transports, these, white blood cells, RBC, into the bloodstream. So without the fluid, it simply means that the white blood cells cannot be transported into the bloodstream. So these are certain components that you could have talked about when they tell you describe the composition and function of the lymph. Of course, please take time so that you can actually go through, sit down so that it actually makes more sense to you as you try to answer. Thank you so much. See you in my next video.